brought down a very stark raya. The supporters of the Murex bring, aside from the Medrash, aside from the Aruch Rishon, who brings down in the Erech Chilazin, brings down this Medrash that's Nartika Gadol Limoy. Sounds like it has some shell, which is a raya, at least that it's maybe some sort of snail. If it's a raya, the Radziner again had that Medrash, brings it down and says that he's fine with that. Upon him to understand the raya, we have to understand first of all a few things. The way the Aruch, Sefer the Aruch works. The Aruch was a Rishon. He wrote definitions. He wrote what words means. Pirush Hamilas, Api, Chazals, Midrashim. 350 years ago, there was, in the time of the Shach, the Taz, there was somebody by the name of Rabbi Binyamin Musfia. He wrote a Moisif HaAruch. He wrote in brackets, square brackets in the Aruch, whenever he feels that he wants to either add something, explain something, and he writes Aleph Beis before every time he starts. Omar Binyamin. So, Avada, he's a person, he was in the time of the Shach, the Taz, Tam Chochem, Atzum, Stome, but he's not the Aruch itself. And then there's the round bracket, which is usually German words, which was written about 150 years ago by a Yid of the name of Moshe Landau. Now, I don't know, I'm not sure who he was. I could just quote to you from the Radziner that somebody writes to him back from the Aruch, and he quotes this round brackets, which was from Moshe Landau, and he writes, "Aval be'emes hu haisafa mimaskil echad mimaskilei zmanenu." Doesn't give him a title, Rebbe. This is Moshe Landau Shmoi. She'asa pirtzes harbe b'sefer Aruch machmas chisarn yediyasai ve'ein mevi'in raya ma'ashoitim u'shmor ze v'da'eyu. He says you're going to need that information for later on. Now, I don't know who he was, I'm not sure, but doesn't speak so strongly about him. It happens to be that in this case, in our case of Chilazin, it's a raya against the Murex, what he brings down, just to understand what's what. The Aruch brings down 4 entries to the word Chilazin. It means he has 4 different definitions for the word Chilazin. By 2 of them, he brings down with something that sounds, at least one of them, he brings down the Medrash of Psiktid Rav Kahana that says that Ma Chilazin Zeh Nartika Gadol Limoy, Kshu Gadol Nartika Gadol Limoy, and it definitely sounds a little bit like it might be some type of a snail. But there are other entries in the, and Taka on that entry where he says that, so the brackets of the round brackets, it brings down Schneck. Schneck in German means a snail. There's another entry he brings down, and over there also fits in with snail, and the round bracket says Schneck. It's a German way of saying snail again. But then there's another entry in the Aruch, and it's a separate thing, and he says he goes through the Gemaras, we'll see soon, of the Chilazim of the Techeles, and he brings down many Gemaras that refer to the Techeles, how they used to diet, and the Gemara in Menachos on this different simonim that Chazal gave for the Chilazin, and he says that's the Chilazin of Techeles. So very clearly what it sounds, and over there he never mentions anything of the Medrash. He doesn't bring down that Nartika Gadol Limoy. This round brackets doesn't bring down anything over there that it's a Schneck, because in that entry, Taka, it's a different Chilazin. We mentioned yesterday that Chilazin is a Shein Koilel. It's a very general term, and it has many, many things. I saw yesterday that one of the Achronim, the Beersheva, who's earlier, he brings down that it could mean also a arbe, a grasshopper. He brings a raya. There's a Yerushalmi that in one of the entries he brings down in the Aruch that there's a pasuk that says, one of the Teichachas the Klai was that whatever you're going to grow, you yorash at slotzal. You're going to be impoverished and poor. You yorash from the slotzal. Slotzal pash means arbe, and the Targum Yonison over there says chalzoina. So he says it doesn't mean, obviously in that case, a snail. So it's clear from the Aruch that he, in that entry doesn't bring down anything to do with the snail, that the chilazon that was used for the Techeles has nothing to do with the Fakir. It's a right Fakir Kimat. That in the other ones, he brings down the Medrash, and he doesn't put in that one any Gemara at all that has reference to the Chilazon of Techeles. He doesn't bring down. Later in the last entry, when he brings down the Techeles, Chilazon, not Techeles, there he brings down the different Gemaras of Techeles without any mention of the earlier Medrash. And there's many Achronim that go like that also. And there's the Yad David, he clearly says, the Yad David and the Beersheva, he says, there you see from the Aruch that there were two different Chilzainis. Because you see that he brings them in different entries, and he says the Medrash, and they bring down the Medrash that says that it's Nartika Gadolimo, that has nothing to do with the Chilazon and Techeles. Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky in his Pirush on Shabbos, he says that he sees the Aruch has two things. It's clear to him, he says, that the Chilazon of Nartika Gadolimo is unrelated to the Chilazon of the Techeles, because he brings it down in separately. Now, what's interesting is that there are words in the Torah that mean snail. There's many words that mean snail. In the Torah itself, snail is referred to, according to Rashi, as a chaymet. One of the Shmoyne Shrotzim is called a chaymet, and that means a snail Rashi touches. How does Rashi touch snail? Rashi uses the French word for snail. He says, belaz, it's a limtza. Limtza in French is a snail. L-I-N-C-E. L-I-N-C-E, or something like that, is limtza. And limtza is a snail. So Rashi, when he brings down chaymet, he says limtza. There's a pasuk in Tehillim that says shavlul. It's brought down also in Gemara a few times. Shavlul means, Rashi touches over there, limtza. There's other ways to describe a snail, and that is in German, Yiddish, it's called a schneck, and in Midrashim sometimes you find the parpura. Now what's interesting is that the word in Torah, and when it's the word chaymet and shavlul, which mean snail, are brought down throughout Tanakh, Mishnayos, and Shas, brought down 6 times. 6 times. Every single one of those times that is brought down, Rashi says, limtza belaz. That means Rashi saying this is a snail. Whenever it says chaymet, whenever it says shavlul, Rashi says it's a limtza, it's a snail. The word chilazon, when it's brought down in Shas as referring to a balchai, sometimes it's just referring to something else, but if it's referring to a balchai, it's mentioned 7 times in Shas. And every single time that it's brought down, Rashi says, V'hu chilazon at-Techeles. Other Rishonim don't agree all the time. Rashi says this is the chilazon, not stam chilazon, the general term chilazon. This is the chilazon that's used to dye Techeles. And every single time that Rashi brings down the word Techeles, every time the Gemara brings down the word chilazon, Rashi says v'hu toilas. One time he says v'hu kimindag, which also maybe it's a toilas, a slug that's in the water. But Akopanim, Rashi knew how to say a snail. Rashi said it every single time that it says chaymet. Every single time it says shavul. Yet when every single time, from the 7 times that it says chilazon, Rashi says this is the chilazon of Techeles, and Rashi never refers to it as a limtza, Rashi says it's a toilas. So they say, no, toilas is a snail. It's a snail in a shell. But Rashi had a way to refer to that as a limtza. Rashi never says it. Very clear that Rashi L'chayr is learning that the chilazon as Techeles is unrelated b'chlal to the snail. What's more than that is that when Rashi brings down the medrash of ma chilazon zeh by simloisechem like bolsa me'alechem, your clothing grew with them in the midbar. Rashi in Eikev brings down the medrash that ma godolimai, ma ze godol nartika godolimai. When Rashi says it, he takes out the word chilazon. And he says, Ma chaymet zeh kishu godel nartika godolimai. He switches the word chilazon and he substitutes it with chaymet. Because Rashi, this is not the chaymet, this is not the chilazon. Because Rashi's shita seems to be that whenever it says chilazon, it's the chilazon of the Techeles. And over here it's not, because it has a shell, and Rashi holds a shell, is not the chilazon of Techeles. So Rashi in Chumash, when he brings down this matter, he says, Ma chaymet zeh, just like this chaymet, Rashi touches always chaymet means a limtza, which is in French a snail. So it's pretty clear from Rashi Shita, from the Aruch Shita, and we'll see many, many other Rishonim, that the chilazon at Techeles was not the snail.